Hi everybody, it's Gemma, welcome back to Pampered Wolf. Today we're going to be talking all about eyeshadow. There have been so many new eyeshadow palette releases recently. I've managed to get my hands on quite a few of them. I didn't want to do individual reviews for every single one because you would get bored. And also those sorts of reviews don't do very well typically on my channel, so I thought I would bulk them all together and do one review, ordering these in order of my personal preference, and I will talk you through the reasons why I've placed each of these palettes in their specific order, if that makes sense. So hopefully this will help a few of you out. If you were thinking about buying any of these palettes, I'm going to go through the pluses, I'm going to go through the negatives of each palette and which ones are my personal favourites. So if you are new here, hi, my name's Gemma. I'm a qualified esthetician and lover of anything beauty, skincare and makeup. I upload videos on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays at 8 PM London time, and I'm also on Instagram if you fancy checking me out over there. It's at Pampered Wolf, all lowercase, no spaces. I would really appreciate it if by the end of this video you like what you've seen, you click that thumbs up button, you also hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss any future uploads. So let's jump straight into my least favourite, and just because it's my least favourite doesn't mean it's a bad palette. Quite the opposite. All of the palettes that feature in this video are really high quality, just the shadows are absolutely phenomenal, but this one is personally for me just my least favourite out of the bunch. So this one is the Natasha Denona Bronze palette. It's a beautiful palette, it really is, and to be quite honest, I've been quite surprised at how little I've actually used this. I thought I would prefer this to the Glam palette, which is more of a cool tone palette. This one obviously being more of a warm tone palette, I thought I'd get more use out of, and I've just not been reaching for this. And I think it's because I've seen this palette 10 times before, or I have all of these shades in other palettes. So in the bronze palette, you get 6 mattes, 4 metallics and 5 duochromes. The shade selection in the pan is beautiful, but once they get swatched, you'll realise that the shades are very, very similar, which inhibits your creativity a little bit. There are very limited looks that you can actually create with this, and that surprised me once I'd actually got them on the skin. So this shade here, Deep Dive, actually stains the skin. This is a nightmare to remove, an absolute nightmare. When I'd done the swatches on my arms, which I'll show you in a minute, this stained my skin for a good 24 hours afterwards. It looked like I got a massive bruise on my arm, and it was just this shade. I'd washed it with everything I could think of and it just was not coming off. So that's something to bear in mind. This shade here, Rhodium, is my favourite shade. It is the most beautiful, beautiful consistency and blend and gorgeousness. It looks stunning on the eye. The problem with me liking this one best out of the entire bunch is it's a very deep shade, and I have very fair skin and don't usually use a lot of deep shades on my eyes, only in the inner corner. So I don't get a lot of use out of this, and it's my favourite out of the entire palette. Let's have a look at the swatches and we can talk about this in a little bit more depth. So I find the mattes in this palette a little bit weaker than any other Natasha Denona palette that I've ever tried. They're slightly difficult to work with, which I was surprised at because I absolutely love Natasha Denona shades. Now I don't know whether mine is slightly older or whether I've got a dud. I don't know, but especially the shade Magma is extremely patchy when I swatch it, and it was extremely patchy to work with on the lid as well. So that's just something you need to bear in mind. Also, this palette is missing an inner corner highlight shade, which I find really disappointing because that's one of the areas that I really want covered within a palette. So that's also something to bear in mind. And another reason why this one is bottom of the pile. Now, just because it's bottom of the pile, please don't think that this is not a good palette. I do think this is a great palette. It's just, I'm not going to get a lot of use out of it. And like I said before, that really surprised me. I thought this was going to be my favourite, and it's really not. The palette in position 5 is one of Charlotte Tilbury's mini palettes. So this is her Dazzling Diamonds luxury palette of pops, and let me tell you, this is divine. These are superb shades and shadow formulas. I am in love with this palette. So why is it only in position 5? Well, I felt it necessary to bump it down the list because there are only 4 shades in here, and although the shades are very different and you can use them in lots of different ways, you can create lots of different looks with just this one palette, there also aren't any mattes in this look for anybody that likes to do a matte in the crease. Now, there never are any mattes in Charlotte Tilbury's luxury palette of pops, but I felt that it wasn't as versatile because of that. So whether I'm being unkind or unreasonable with the luxury palette of pops, I don't know, but it's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. The consistency, the whole blendability, the beauty of it, it's just stunning. If you want to know what these look like on the eye, these are the shadows that I had on my eyes in the October Faves and Fails vid that went out on Tuesday. So if you want to have a look what these look like, just go and have a look at that video. But I got lots of compliments about my eyes in that video, and it was all down to this palette. That was all I had on my eyes. So it's just stunning, and I will use these all the time. So these shades can be used together like I did in the October Faves and Fails vid. These can be used on their own. You can also use these as toppers over other shadows, especially this shade here I find is absolutely excellent for that. Just a little bit of shimmer in the center or a little bit in the inner corner, it's just to die for. Divine, absolutely divine. Nothing bad to say about it. In position 4, we have the Wayne Goss Luxury Eye Palette. This is a beautiful palette. Absolutely gorgeous. If you don't own very many palettes, this is a staple item. This is beautiful. You can create day looks with this. You can jazz it up for an evening look with this. You can create drama, or you can look very, very natural and just define the eye a little bit for a nice natural daytime look. This can do it all. So the shade range is neutrals. It's limited. You're not going to get a green or a blue out of this palette. If you're wanting that, you need to go and search elsewhere. I'm actually hoping he brings something out a little bit later on that is more punchy. But the quality of these shadows sing. They are phenomenal quality shadows. The only thing that I wish about this palette is that the pans were either slightly smaller and you got more of a colour selection, or the pans were slightly smaller and they brought it down in price a little bit, because these pans are so big there is no way I'm ever going to hit pan on this. Ever. Absolutely ever. But the shades are fantastic. Now, if you are a person of a certain age and you feel like you can no longer wear eye makeup because your eyelids are slightly crepey and you're worried that eyeshadow won't sit on your eyelids as well anymore, look no further, because this is super age friendly. It looks beautiful on any age. Stunning. Absolutely stunning. I think Wayne did such a fantastic job creating these shades, and also the quality of these shadows, because they just sit beautifully. And when I was swatching these and when I was using these on the eyelid, these are so smooth, so easy to use, no fallout. Even this sparkly shade down here just looks absolutely beautiful and was very, very easy to work with. These are very beginner friendly, and I think it will be a value to anyone's eyeshadow collection. In position 3, we have the Natasha Denona Glam palette. This is gorgeous. It's cool toned, it's frosty, it's full of glitz and glam. I'm not going to go on about this too much because I have done a full-blown review on this, and I will link that up here for you if you haven't seen it already. But this is a stunning palette. The only thing I will mention whilst I'm showing you the swatches is that the shade Lash Line, which is the deep matte shade, is slightly temperamental, and I feel like it can only be used as a lash line shade rather than using this all over the lid. I find this quite hard to blend out and slightly patchy, so that's my only negative about this palette. I do feel like this palette is more versatile than the bronze palette. There are far more looks that you can create with this than I feel you can create with the bronze palette. And I feel like this one is also slightly quicker to use because the mattes are better quality. Again, I don't know if I've got a dud in the bronze palette, but I do feel like the mattes in this palette are far more buttery and easier to blend out. So again, not going to go on about this too much, but that is my choice for position 3. Just missing out on the top spot, and I lost sleep over this because I really wanted to put this in the top spot, but then at the last minute changed my mind. This is the Huda Beauty Khaki Haze Obsessions palette. This is just an unbelievable palette, and it's the most affordable out of all the palettes that I've got in this review today. There are 9 shadows in here. These are warm greens, aubergines, golds, terracottas. There's just, oh, absolutely beautiful. This is the palette that I reach for all the time. It just draws me in. There are so many different looks that you can create with this palette. You can create a warm terracotta, bronzy look. You can create a more greeny look. There's a more pinky look. This shade here actually has flecks of pink in it, and you'll be able to see that in the swatches in just a moment, but it's the most beautiful shade. It's goldy with hints of pink, and it's just stunning. I also adore this aubergine shade, more eggplant if you're in the US. I don't know if you call it aubergine in the US. I know you do call it eggplant on the odd occasion. So yeah, these are just divine, really versatile, so many looks that you can create with this palette. It's just 5 mattes, 4 metallics, something for everybody. And I'm just in love with this. I really am. It's really nice. It's compact. It's great to take away with you traveling because it also has a mirror in it as well. So if you don't want to take one of the massive palettes with you, this is just great to take on holiday with you. Not very many cool shades in here. In fact, are there any cool shades? No. This is a warm tone palette. So if you're after a cool tone palette, then this probably won't be up your street, but it's definitely up mine. So we're down to the top spot, and in the top spot is a palette that surprised me. This is a palette that I didn't actually want to buy because I didn't think I'd use it that much, and in fact it's the palette that I have on my eyes today. It's beautiful, and I think when I've been able to test these one after the other, it's really given me an insight into quality of shadows because I don't wear a lot of eyeshadow on a daily basis. You will have noticed in a lot of my videos, I'm not wearing any eyeshadow at all. So I don't play around with them as much. And it's really given me a major crash course in the quality of different shadows and my personal preference in how I like my shadows to feel and how I like my shadows to blend out. The quality of these shadows is second to none. They are phenomenal. They are buttery. They are creamy. They are easy to blend. They are beginner friendly. They are age friendly. And they have a lot of shimmer in this palette, which if you don't like shimmer, this palette may not be your cup of tea. But the quality of Charlotte Tilbury palettes in general is phenomenal. And that is why this palette is in the top spot. So this is the Charlotte Tilbury Bejeweled Eyes to Hypnotise. There's a mixture of warm and cool tones. These are smooth, buttery, unbelievably easy to blend. In my personal opinion, Charlotte Tilbury shadows are creamier and smoother than the Natasha Denona palettes. The quality just gets better and better with each palette that she brings out, especially the metallic shades. The metallic shades feel quite wet in this palette, which means that they go on superbly without any fallout whatsoever, which I'm just in love with this palette. There are 9 metallics, 3 mattes, so this may not be your preference. So the shade selection in this palette is very, very similar to the shade selection that you get from the Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk palette, but you get much more mattes in that palette than shimmers, and you get more shimmers in this palette than mattes. So if you're after mattes, I would go for that palette. If you're after more of an evening glitz and glam look, I would go for this one. Also, this one has the purpley selection, which the Pillow Talk range doesn't have. So I really didn't think I was going to like this as much as I do, but I absolutely adore it and I will get a lot of use out of it. So that's it for this video. Please make sure to hit the like button if you found this video helpful in some way. I guess it's really down to personal preference because all of these palettes are absolutely fantastic in their own way. But my personal preference is a really versatile palette and also one that has more buttery and creamier blends. And that's not going to be for everybody. So do let everybody know your personal preferences and your personal experiences with all of the products that I've mentioned in this video today in the comment section below, and hope to see you all in the next video. Bye everyone.